So what are some usage models? WAN topologies, network topologies. So these tend to be drawn with our software, kind of storage, hierarchical drawings with nesting, where you might drill down onto a particular, the idea of building hierarchy into your data, and you have drill down and expand and collapse and the like. Then this is an interesting drawing because it shows drawings with structure and graphical, where they have complicated graphical representation on top of the drawing. So you're trying to show data properties on the nodes and links. And this is like a 3,000 node web, how website links. That's the BBC website at one time. So I'll just keep going. Just to give a picture, so basically data is it's in all sorts of formats. It's in Excel, text, XML, SQL. It's from web search. It might be in an application in memory that you have to retrieve it. So the idea of an architecture, so we have a model, kind of an application data model loader from other people's applications. So they might have a network application in memory with the discovered elements, and they're doing networking operations. So we have this idea of model integration, and then we also have data integration, where we can retrieve from multiple data sources into a unified data model in memory, like what they call federated data integration. So it's the idea of pulling from simultaneous sources and keeping an integrated, correct data model. So then you have the idea of designing your application semantically, like instead of thinking of nodes and links or vertices and edges, you're actually dealing with switches, routers, bridges, devices, or people, places, and events in like a social network analysis app. So you're actually dealing at the level of the data. You're designing your application from the idea of what is the data I'm really working with, instead of thinking of nodes and links. The things you may want to work with, the result might be graph data, but you actually want to you want to have a data model in memory that actually mirrors the application space that people are working with. So this is what this our more recent architecture works in a sense. Then you have data visualization layer with different kinds of views of the same data, and I'll show what that means. And visual interaction, which is how do you navigate the space, how do you work with that data, and then various printing and exporting services. Save your images so you can publish your paper, or make some images for the web or whatever, and you can save in various formats. So what we've been kind of heading towards is helping people build applications in days, like powerful. Instead of like a year or 3 years on a dissertation, you actually can build your visualization applications in a week or a couple of weeks. And it's actually live and against your data. So we have a graphical-based IDE to design applications, visualization and analysis applications. So we have this concept of a designer, and you. So what we've done in recent history is people have data, and we know they want graphical views of their data. So what we've done is built this pipeline to go from data to data model to graphical views of data. And we've made it configurable at each point. So you can just configure your application and go, and you've actually got something and you can. So that's the idea, that we capture the metadata of an application in this idea of an XML project. So the project has a schema, which is about the type of the data you're working. What are the attributes and values that are allowed in your data? What are the data? What are the types? What are the attributes and values? Integrator is how do you retrieve data from your Excel or your SQL or your network discovery repository or whatever you have, or whatever data sources you have. Views, we have the concepts of tree controls that can be configured, diagram views or drawing views, spreadsheet views, and property views. And then we'll have charting in a little while, so you can make charts like maybe show payroll data or salary data, different kinds of data drawings. And then something that's very important as the data is getting larger and larger is how do you filter? How do you retrieve a subset of the data you're actually interested in working with at this time. And I'll demonstrate how this works. And then we have the concept of a previewer. So you basically design an application, then you can preview it at any time. So you kind of get this design preview, design cycle. And so the previewer will, once you design your application, the previewer will pull it, from the data source directly. You actually build the bindings to the data. And we have the ability now to you design once, and you can go to a Java desktop application, an Ajax application for web views. And we also shortly, in a few months, have a HTML5 rendering in the browser. So we'll have, and then later this year we'll have .NET rendering for. So there's going to be like the idea of design something once and then choose later where you want it to go, like to a desktop application, to a web app, to a rich internet browser, like Flex style. So HTML5 you can do interactive zooming and interactive graphics in the web instead of using. So that's an example of a web application with the same design. So the same way to retrieve and configure the graphical views, except it's in the web. So the idea is you can build a desktop or web app with the same design. Design once. It's very powerful. Yeah. So maybe I should, depending on the time, I should probably. The idea is we're trying to get into, hundreds of thousands and millions of entities and work with the data sets that our customers have. Build something very quickly, yet not, and work quickly. Design reuse, the idea of providing content, style sheets, like the idea of designing the visual appearance of your application outside of code. Like it's an IP switch view, it's a security view. You actually have types and graphics, and you want to pull this out of the code so that people can, human factors people or designers can change the appearance of the application without sending it back to the software team. Make it so you design once, deploy multiple, in different places, and we have this other concept of what we call federation. You can pull from multiple sources. You can make editing applications that will then commit back to the sources. So you can actually like edit your database in the view and then write the data back to the database with reconfigure your database graphically and that kind of thing. So you could build a database design application or a network design or modeling application with something like this Tom Sawyer perspective. Okay, and then all sorts of visualization to navigate the data.